URL for the stream if you need it. There it is. Oops, I fucked it up. Oh, it worked anyway. That's funny. All right, and I'm gonna go down to share. Uh, Starting now. And I'm gonna go to EMS and share there too. Starting now. Part 1. Okay. All right. Oh, you know what? I wish I could just see my OBS chat. That would be the easiest thing. But all right. Okay, dude. Are you ready to start learning?
Let's do it.
Okay. So I never updated my
Oh shoot,
vector. Um,
I
uh,
did not either.
what version are you on?
Uh,
Hit global.
well,
Hit
yeah,
global.
thank you.
You're welcome. And then in the top on the second screen on the right, there should be a number like a 2 dot something.
I went too far. Hold on. That is the 2936.
2.9.36, huh? Okay, so yours is actually newer than mine. So there probably won't be a huge amount of differences. I will go ahead and update mine later if so. The next time we have part 2 of this, we can be on the same version.
Sounds good. We can latest beta.
Yep, that's right. The latest beta. So, uh, should we talk anything about the global section, or should we just really get into programming a melodic voice or sequencing and understanding what's going on? I think, you know, we could jump back over to the global section if we need to at some point to talk about something, but I think going through all the settings on that might take a while. What do you think?
So as I was repatching because I re-racked everything last night,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing that was actually kind of a problem because I had up until my performance and stuff, I had been strictly using the Launchpad for navigation, and so I think it may be a good idea to talk through the basics of navigation on this because it took me a
Sure.
second. I had to actually go and open the manual.
Yeah. Well, okay. So as far as the navigation, I will talk through that. So the first thing I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna hold Shift and click Load, and that brings you into this screen. If you notice on the left of the yellow global button, it says Load vertically.
Hmm.
That vertical thing is what happens when you hold shift. And it's the same down here on the bottom where the keyboard is also. Um, I have a project, this 00 new, right? And then I have 01 new. I wonder, I'm going to load both of them. But essentially, those are kind of templates. He doesn't have a template system yet, but you can save something like that, which I just did. And then if I go and I look, okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna load 00 new. Um, so again, it's shift load, and then you use the ninth encoder up here to cycle through all of your saved things, right? So I'm gonna go to 00 new, and then over here on the right side, it says load project, previous no, next yes. So boom, project loaded. Um, Now, while this is here and loaded, uh, I can do a few things that I think will help you out. Um, so, one of the first things is uh, you can, if you hit global on this first screen, it is all of the main global settings that you might want for the entire patch, right? So I'm at C minor right now, which I'll leave. But if I turn up swing, that's going to be for every single part in this, right? It'll affect everything, just the way that BPM would affect everything, right? But since this is a template, if you remember, I just hit part to go back to this screen. Um, it's that 00 new that's right there. Um, I hold shift and I hit save, and now I want to change this because I don't want it to be 00 new, right? I want it to be uh, let's see. And it's really fast to go through these knobs actually. You always overshoot a little bit and then you can dial it in as you get closer. But all right, boom, vector. And so again, it says save project, previous no, next yes. If I go next, now in the top right up here, it's displaying as vector. And that's the part that we're on. So once again, if I hold shift and go load, which is the global button, there's my template, 00 new, but now I have a new one called vector, right? And if you want to just exit this screen without doing anything, it's previous, hit no. Okay, right now all my parts are muted. That's why they're at a slightly lower brightness. If I hit the mute button here once, and then I click part one, I enable that. So that's the kick, right? And that is enabled. We're going to be working with melodic voice. So I'll probably use the Hertz donut right now for that. And I will turn that on. And I'll just leave kick on for now. But so to switch between parts, if you see right now, 6 is selected. There's a select on it. If I hold part down and I click on kick, it switches up here to kick. If I go back, you see the selection there now. And I went back by hitting the part button again. Part is like the parent page for all the parts. It's like the global page for all the parts. And that's where you can, do various things. You could select multiple ones, you can mute a whole bunch of things and stuff like that. But that's where you do some of those things. So while we're here, though, since you wanted to see global, if I hit global again, um, each of these tempo, sync, key, and then you see 1 through 6 here. Um, each of those are basically, if you turn to the right with the parent knob or this the ninth encoder, you'll see the number here go to 2, right? So now I'm in general tuning. I go back 1, I'm in general. This has tempo, sync, and key all on here, right? And, more than that, but that's what it says. So now I'm on page 2. I have tune A and tune B. I'm on page 3, which is general miscellaneous. Auto load on, auto save on. I recommend having auto save on. It is super helpful. Uh,
Yep.
I do want to show you though. Okay, so I'm gonna exit. We'll come back. We'll come back to global real quick. I'm gonna exit. I'll go to the parent parts again. Right. Um, you see this little dot here inside that little disk next to the vector? Do you see that?
Hmm.
That means it's not saved. So the way vector saves is if you hit run and it's running, you can make all these changes live, right? Like I'm running, I could go to kick and I could go to gates and I could throw in a ton of gates or I could turn them off. And if I go back to parts again and you see how it still has a dot in there, the second I hit run again to stop this, it's no more of a dot. So that's how autosave works. It doesn't save every like 5 minutes or something, or every 3 minutes, or every action you do, but it saves every time you stop the sequence if it's been playing. Um, all right, let's go back to global again, and I think I was on. Yeah, I was on page 3. Um, so right now, I'm not even going to bother going through all these, what all the pages are. It's more about how you navigate. We're on page 4, which is the MIDI sync and out. I have all my MIDI on right now for everything, but I'm not even using all of it. This is about program changes using MIDI. And then this is just the status of a USB device if it's connected. And that's all of the general pages. But if I go back to, um, sorry, all right, if I go back to the main general page, down here I have previous to next. That essentially, within general, it changes the parent page. You see how that says general? Now it says parts. Now it says route. So that first section there, if you think about it like an outline, like a bulleted list almost, except it's horizontal instead. So going to the right, you can see each individual part. You'll see my part 1 is named kick. Snare, you'll notice this little line that goes down to the encoder here. That line that goes down to the encoder means that encoder changes that. And usually, actually, everything that's right above an encoder changes things. Like this says orange and yellow right now for the hats. I can change it to yellow and yellow, or, none and yellow, or magenta. But I'm going to leave it at orange and yellow for now. And this is just a way to cycle through and do some quick settings on all the parts, right? So there is something else here. I'm trying to remember. Oh, there it is. Okay. So on the parts, the way there's 2 pages, 1 and 2. Duh, I should have known that. There's 2 pages. So the second page is where you can name things. Right now, I don't want this to be called perk, right? So if I go in here to the name and I go down to here and I'm going to change it to MET, and then space metalloid A. And then I'm going to scroll up to hat and I'm going to change that one to MET and metalloid B. That's what I want them named. I'm going to have to change that in my template eventually. So to exit this again, I can go back a page up here. Or while I'm in there, I can just hit back and it'll take me to the parent page or the parent general global section. So parts was that section and naming things. Here is where you assign the various outputs all over the place on the jack expander or on the main thing to its part, right? So if I go back and I have kick and part 1, here you'll notice that pitch 1, gate 1, and velocity 1, which are up here, they're set to PH1, which is piston Honda channel 1, right? If I cycle through here, I could set this all to kick. And then these guys would be controlling the kick. But in this particular case, I want piston Honda 1 to be what's assigned to these. And pitch 2, gate 2, and velocity 2 are currently assigned to my Hertz donut. And there's 10 pages here. So that'll go through all 6 parts with outputs, right? Then after 6, you'll notice it's completely different on page 4, right? So page 4 is talking about the outputs up here, which is your run, your clock, and your reset. And those are right there, those 3 outputs. Run can be any number of things that you want it to be. It doesn't just have to be run. It could be a clock that's set to half notes if you want. But I like mine set to run because mine is currently controlling Pamela's workout. And I am sending a 24 ppqn pulses per quarter note to Pamela's right now to sync tempo, and I have Pam set up that way. I also have a global reset, right? This is useful if I think actually 4 is probably a little low. I probably want it to be at 32. If you're doing a lot of polymetric things or even some polyrhythmic things, then stuff gets out of whack. If you want to set a global reset, you can, and then it'll sync after however many whole notes have passed. It will sync to those. I'm going to go back to 32. Okay. Are you following? Any questions? Should I keep going on the settings, or what do you think?
If we're going to focus on a melodic part, let's go ahead and sequence something.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. So I'm going to click part, and I'm going to select part 6, which is the Hertz donut. So I hold down part, and I press the 6th button over here. And then it displays up there. It tells you what you're on, Hertz. A01 is the preset of the part. So I'm going to go through each one of these and show you all the pages on them. But quickly, I'm going to show the last one first. So I clicked it once, and preset A01 is right there. If I click it again, this shows all the parts, and then it shows what presets are assigned within that particular row. And right now in row 1, there's no presets assigned. If I went back here, and this is something that catches me up all the time, and I go ahead and I put a couple of gates in there, you see how there's still nothing here? Oops, sorry. Okay, so, oh, well, maybe we are hearing something anyway. I don't know why, but typically you're not supposed to hear anything unless that's there. I might have a different setting set up right now. Let me turn off all the effects that are currently on the Piston Honda. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the part screen here and hit gate, and I see my gates. I gotta set Piston Honda up real quick. This will only take a second. So a lot of digital oscillators also, if you notice right now, you see how slow that's moving? And then it's going to the next page to steps 9 through 16. You can get to that by hitting next. So if I hit control, this is like, control is like the global thing, but for a part. It shows you everything on this parent page here that's going on for this part. The rate right now is set to quarter notes instead of 16th notes, right? If it's set to 16th, then each one of these gates represents a 16th note. The pitch is at C3 right now. If I go back into control here, most digital oscillators, you're gonna want to set the octave to +2. The reason, or maybe +3, but the reason for this, sorry, I'm gonna turn down the music a little bit. I can't hear it over my own voice. So the reason for this is because the voltage on the vector that comes out of the pitch things is below 0 when you're at octave 0, right? In fact, I think it's 2 octaves off. I think octave 2 is where it finally becomes positive. But I'm going to put it to 3 right now, just because of whatever setting I have on the Piston Honda. This is actually now a C3. I mean, on the Hertz Donut. So, pitches, that's on this page. And then gates. That's all I have are just these 3 things and this pitch here. If I go back to control, I changed it to 16th notes. You have a reset that's auto, which basically means it's going to take the global reset I showed you earlier. You can set that to whatever you want. So it's... Alright, let's go back to auto. The length is currently 16 steps, and it starts on step 1. So if I reduce this to 8, and let's go back to the gates, now you see it's only going to these 8 steps. If I go back into control, set it down to 7, you can see now it's only going between here and here, which is really kind of interesting. Let's go ahead and go down to 4, and we're going to create an arpeggio. All right, so I'm going to use this parent. I keep saying parent, but it's called the 9th encoder. I don't know why I keep saying parent. So I'm going to set it there. And then, because if I hit the control again, because if I hit it one more, where is it? Okay, yeah, okay. So it's on the second page. You'll see that the key says C minor here. That's because of what we set in the global section over here. If I go back and I hit control twice, there's your key right there, C minor. You can set keys different per part if you want. It doesn't have to just be the global setting. So there's our gates. We're 4 things. Okay, so now we have a little arpeggio. And it's only 4 steps. And it's pretty cool. It's simple and it's easy. Right? If I hit pitch again, right? I'm gonna go back. Here's our note names. The second page is glide. You hear that glide? And then watch this. You see how that goes down? It's mostly because it's smart enough to know that this note is lower than this note. So if the slew goes down, and then I could turn it off too. So that's your slides, and that's both of the pages on pitch. So that's clear, right?
Yeah.
So what do you have any questions about the control page here, or am I going too fast or too slow or giving too much info?
No questions so far.
Okay.
I think it might be important to point out something though.
Yeah.
And that's say like I've got pitch or I've got gates, right? And I have nothing patched right now, so you won't hear anything. But say like I've got,
I'm flipping to you
like,
on the stream. So, I can't see you. Hold on a second. There we go. So, yep. Okay, cool. Now you're showing up on the stream. So, go ahead.
All right, cool. So say like you've got the gates, steps 1, 4, and 7.
Yeah.
And you go over the pitch, and those are already going to be enabled. But
Yes.
say like if you wanted to do something to where you would change the pitch here, to enable that, it sadly has to enable the gate as well. So if you were doing some weird sort of separations, you would not be able to do that with this.
What do you mean? Do you mean live?
So like I was the way I had it patched earlier, I want to say it was on the expander outs 6, pitch, gate, and velocity. Gate and pitch were fine, but I was using the velocity to do something else because why not? And it was not related to the sound that it was on the channel with. If that makes sense. And so I couldn't just have it not enabled, but I don't know, it was weird. I don't know what I was expecting, if I'm being perfectly honest. But yeah, those 3 are linked together as far as enable, disable.
Oh, well, definitely. And I mean, or at least, what's interesting, it's interesting that you say that. They are linked together. But they don't have to be linked together. In fact, let me go ahead and show you that real quick. I think, even though I'm an earlier version, I'm going to flip back to my view and I'm going to show you something else here on the control pages. Okay. So the control pages, I think there's 4 pages. Let's find out. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're back to the first one. So there's 4 pages. On page 3, and this might be different in your version, but you are definitely going to see FreeGate somewhere, right? You're going to see it no matter what. If I turn that on and I say, hey, I want this to be 5 instead of being off. Now let's go back here. I think what I've just done is I've decoupled these 4 steps with the pitches and the gates, and I'm actually going to do 5 steps of gates. So let's turn this one off and let's find out. So the answer is yes, I did do that. So now they're decoupled. If I go in, let's go ahead and do. Let's go back to the gates. So now I switched it to 8 gates. So this is pretty cool because I have 8 steps and then 4 steps, but it's actually more fun if you get them to not align. Use 7 steps and then maybe 4. Something that's odd and even is always a little bit more fun, because then you could get like these pretty interesting variations, which originally, if we go back and we turn that off, this was our original one. These gates aren't being used at all, it's just these. And then I had 7, and these 2 are silent, and 7 was on. So it's a really, I mean, I know it's not exactly what you were talking about. I know you were talking about how when you're on pitch and it's grayed out like this, unless you have a gate, it's not going to do anything. You actually showed everyone the shortcut, right? You can just press, actually, that's if you have it on the correct, and I don't even remember which one it is. So I'm on select. No, see, that's skip. Mine's totally different from yours. There it is, mute. So if you have mute, then it'll turn gates on and off, right? You see that gate is muted now. And if I go back to pitch and turn it on, now that gate is on. And if I turn the gate off and I go back to pitch, then it's also grayed out. So, okay. Let's see. So, another interesting thing about pitch before we move on to some of the gate things. I mean, I just showed free gate, but another interesting thing about pitch, at least for me, sometimes when I'm working and I don't like what I'm doing, and maybe I'm in the wrong octave or something like that, and I don't feel like going in here and modifying every single note on my 8 or 16 step sequence or whatever it is, but in this case it's 4. I'll grab the 9th encoder and I'll just, oops, sorry, let me turn off that select. So when nothing is selected, by the way, see, this is a select button. If you press it once, I can go in here and select multiple things, which means that they're grouped and I can edit them at the same time. When nothing is selected, it kind of means they're all selected. So I use the 9th encoder up here and I go down to C0 and it flips every single pitch down to C0. And then I can go back up and go to C5 4 to be in that octave if I want. And we'll go and do that real quick. And it's like we're kind of back at a similar arpeggio, except an octave up. Now, of course, I could have just turned the octave up by going to the control page. But sometimes you don't want to do that, and you just want to change things. So I just wanted to show that you can. It's also a real good way to. It's a real good way to transpose if you want to. And before, when I hit the select button, now I have these two selected. And we're back. I'm going to deselect both of those. So you can group and change things with this 9th encoder is basically what I was trying to get at. Which is you use select to group specific ones, or if nothing is selected or they're all selected, which frankly I don't know why you'd want to go through and select all of them, then you can just use the 9th encoder if nothing's selected. Cool. Want to talk about gates?
Sure.
All right. Do you have any questions about anything?
Not so far, no.
All right. So let's talk about gates. I'm going to actually turn those off for now and just have the initial gate on. In fact, I'm going to change my envelope so that it's not so squishy real quick. So let's do this and do that. And is that even the right envelope? It's not at all. That's so funny. It's definitely this one. Okay. Which is fine. All right. So it's one gate. If you extend the length, let me get my envelope set up properly here. There we go. Okay. So you can hear how the gate length, if you have an ADSR or an ASR, something that has a sustain stage on it, gate length is going to lengthen the note. If you have that go all the way to the end by turning the gate size all the way to the end to this thing, that's a tie, which means it's going to tie it to the next one. Let's change the pitch down to C4 on all of these right now. So now I can get really long notes. In fact, let's go ahead and change the length to 8. Okay, so now I've got these 4 steps playing a note. And if I want to split that up, I can split it up or tie them again. So that's just the first page of gates and how it works, essentially. There's nothing else to it, really. It's gate length, and it's the amount of time that a gate is high that comes out of each of the outputs, or the gate output that you have assigned to that particular part. So you can do really short things. In fact, I could shorten up my... Oh god, I'm on the wrong damn... It's on the damn wrong ADSR again. I'll keep messing with this other ADSR that has nothing to do with this. And this will probably make it a little bit more obvious. See?
So you're just opening sustain all the way up then on the envelope, correct?
Yeah, so that's in my case, I know you can't see it right now, but I'm using a Zadar. And the sustain level is about at 50%. What I did was I made the envelope a lot faster. So it's kind of a short envelope right now. It's like a hard attack, like, you know, no attack time, just immediate attack, a pretty fast decay, and then a sustain around 50%, and not a very long release either, you know?
Right.
This way, you get the most option for dynamics, because right now, this is all, like if I turn them all off, see I use the 9th encoder again, I'm turning them all on, like, it's straight, except for the fact that I have swing on. Let's turn off the swing. So it's straight and boring as fuck, but the second you're going to start to get dynamics. And that's way more fun. And then I could go in here. Okay, now I'm getting into this. So I'm going to go back here and unmute my kick. I don't really have... I think I have a snare. Oh, I do think I set up these. I'm not sure what they're doing, though. Let's find out. Nope, I don't have anything going on. Part. Alright, let's bring this down to 4. I'm going to set it to 6. And then I'm going to go to part 4. And the only reason I'm doing this right now is to show you that it is actually really fast to move around, even though sometimes it may not seem like it is. So I think I had that at 6 steps. I'm going to set this one to 4 steps. And I'm going to put one on the 4th note. But look at that. You see how... I'm going to go back to all the parts. It's muted. Okay, let's turn all this shit off. Okay, back to this guy here. So that's gates. All right, so part, I just kept flipping between them. I'm going back to the Hertz donut. There's my part, 8 steps, short and long gates. Now, if you press gate again, things get very exciting. So what this is showing right now is the center point of every single one of the gates. So as I do this, it's basically microtiming, right? So I can, without using swing, I can basically add, if I go on every other one, you know, and they're around 20s, I can add a shuffle. So let's turn these off so you can still hear the shuffle. All right, so boom, shuffle, right? Of course, if I bring them all down to 50 and then bring it all back to 0 again, it's completely straight, except for that one pitch that's a little higher, which is fine. We won't talk about that. So page 2 is microtiming.
There's a question in the chat. Can you do gate strength?
So that is a really great point. No, but you're skipping ahead. You're going to velocity. So there's another output because you have 3 outputs. You have a gate, you have pitch, gate, and velocity for every single part. So while you can't change the level of the actual gate, which really there's only a few modules out there anyway that will recognize the level of a gate. LPGs, clearly some SSF modules. He's got a bunch of things going on with recognizing the level of gates. The Metalloid will recognize gate level. But mostly there really aren't very many modules that recognize the level of a gate, but it has velocity. So I'll get to velocity soon, and obviously you don't need to use velocity for level and volume in something, but I often do. But you can use it for any other parameter on any module, just sending it CV per step. So actually we're at velocity now, to be honest. We're there because there's only 2 pages on gate, right? You have your microtiming and then you have your length, right? So let's go ahead and go back to very short ones again. And I'm going to turn off the microtiming on these guys so that we so that everything sounds straight again, so it's very easy to hear the velocity differences. All right, so 8 gates, all the pitches are the same except for step 5. Velocity. The velocity straight across the board on this. Now, I certainly hope that Hertz Donut is patched for velocity right now, and actually it is, but instead of level of volume, it's patched to the level of folding, I think. So let's find out. We're going to turn velocity 1 up, 2 and 3 down, 4 we'll leave the same, and then there we go. I don't really hear any difference. There we go. Sorry. Anyway, there it is. That's how velocity works. And right now, that's controlling the level of folding. I have an attenuator on it. But you get the same rhythm that I was doing before with the gates and with the microtiming as well. So let's actually go ahead and add that back in. So I'm doing 1, 4, and 7 mostly. Actually, it might be kind of interesting if I do it off from those. Now we get something even a little bit more shuffly. We'll start with 3 here. All right. Pitch. gate velocity. Velocity has a second page, and to be honest, I don't know what the hell this is for right now. Oh, I do know. It's CC. It's for MIDI. If you're sending something out of a MIDI CC or you're using MIDI on the device, that's what the following pages are beyond velocity. It goes velocity, CC1, 2, and 3. So you have 3 channels of CC messages that you can send out of MIDI and control with the vector. Word. All right. So stuff starts to get really weird right now. I could go. I don't know. What do you think, Steve? I'm VCLoki. Do you want to do length and repeat and keep going to the right, or should we get into subsequencers?
I mean, chance kind of goes along with what you've been doing, making off-time stuff. If you want to get into that a little bit too.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. So I will show length and repeat though.
Okay.
Just real quick. So you notice right now it says the length is 2 right there on the top.
Yeah.
So that is your first page, and they're all set to 1s, but it says 2 up there. It says 2 because it's 2 whole notes, right? I think those are whole notes. 16, 8, wait, 16ths. Yeah, I don't know, whatever. I think they're whole notes, but regardless, it says 2. And if you had it set to 16, it would say 4. If I change this to 1.5, that means the time of that step is 1.5, and now the length of the entire sequence is something really weird. You know, it's a fraction. And it kind of throws things off a bit. You'll hear it. It's cool. And there's a lot of like weird shit that you can do with this. Like, and I personally, I like a lot of this stuff, right? You flip all those and it goes like everything's like weird ass lengths. It's kind of crazy sounding. You're seeing length change up here. Alright, and we're back to our thing. So one thing that's kind of fun that I like to do sometimes is if you do set these to 1.5, that's a half on each. So I think, am I correct about this? No, I think I might. There we go. So if you do want to stay within like correct timing or on the grid, you just want to get that to be even numbers, really. And then you can get like these really fucking weird rhythms. So what I did is I subtracted the amount that I added here.
Right.
So, I suppose if I had done it this way, it would still say 2. So that's also a really cool thing. It's like you can get lots of different weird timing things like that. And it's just like when you want to do weird stuff within one measure, like switching between 16th notes or 8th notes into like quarter notes, but on the same pattern, right? On the same preset, then that's how you can do it. You can actually mix the kinds of things. You use that timing to do that. The next page is repeats. So right now, we're getting into we're getting into the territory of Metropolis. So repeat on this one is set to 4. So this shit would sound really good with, like, if I go back and let's go ahead and do this, but let's turn off some of that crazy distortion that I have going on. I think I have it off now. Oh, but I'm 16 steps. Let's go to 8 steps. All right. So that's essentially length and repeat. It's kind of straightforward. Turn off the kick. All right. Ratchet is exactly what it says. You click it once and it has these slashes, right? Double ratchet, triple, quadruple, and that's it, I think. Yeah, you get up to 4 in one space. Now what's interesting is I could create a ratchet. If I go back to length and repeat, let's turn this to quarter notes and then repeat it 4 times. It's essentially the same thing. It's just tying it now like a gate. So, but I essentially built the same thing by turning that to a quarter note and repeating it 4 times. Is almost, it is pretty much the same thing. But it is pretty neat when you do start to combine some of these. Like I have 3 on this. Stuff can get really weird. Let's turn those off. Okay. And Ratchet has 1 page. It's really straightforward and simple. Now, everything that I've shown you, from pitch to ratchet, almost all of that is available as a kind of modulation, whether it's subsequencer or chance operations. So if I, let's go back to gates real quick. It's an easy page to see what's going on, maybe the pitch one too, but the gate page is pretty easy. So let's actually make them all the same length again. I'm at C4. I'm going to go all the same pitch again, but we'll put you up at E. And then, what else? I had some timing things that I want to get rid of. You know, I should have just deleted the pattern. It would have been quicker probably than resetting it this way, but I don't know, maybe me going through all that is helping reinforce what I already showed. I don't know. Is it?
I'd much rather go through the process,
Yeah.
honestly.
You're what?
I'd much rather go through the process to remove it rather than just deleting the pattern.
Awesome. Good. Well, Parallax Memory asked about subsequences. Should I just jump into that real quickly before, or for a little bit before doing chance? It doesn't really matter which order we do it in. So I'm going to do something that I did in an earlier video. I'm going to go down. it's funny. I should do 2 steps because it's just so ridiculous, conceptually, right? But I'll do 4 steps, right? And we're gonna turn one off, and that's it. We'll just have one off on 4 steps. Okay, so
All right.
and the length is 4 gates, and they're all the same pitch. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on for now, and make it a little longer. We've got different velocities, which is why it sounds a little different. I think it's kind of cool, so I'm gonna leave that in there. That at least adds a little bit of motion. So modulation is where the subsequencers are. Clicking it once takes you to pretty much the same as the global or the control page. There's this kind of parent page, but this is for subsequencer 1. It says mod subseq 1, right? You can set all your parameters here, what the subsequencer is going to do. So it's set to 8 steps right now, but I'm going to bring it down to 2, right? And I'm going to set it to the same speed that the sequence is running at, which is 16th notes right now, and the direction at forward, okay? So right now, actually, if I set that to 4, that would exactly match it. So there you go. We're setting it to 4. Maybe I'll start there. Parameter, as you begin to turn it, you see different options. So transpose, octave. You can change the rate. You can change the direction. You can change the start position and the length, right? Those are all the subsequencer things that you can do, which starts to make shit really weird. You can also set some sub things in here, minimum and maximum for each of these. Like, for example, if it were octave, I guess that's just informational. Maybe I can't change those. Well, whatever. So I'm going to go to octave, and I'm going to enable it, right? And I'm going to hit play, and it's doing nothing. Down here on next, or yeah, so you can either page through it with previous or next, or the page itself. So here's our first page. This is the second page, and these are the values right now. So if I turn this up 1, we've now got an octave up. So the reason I was going to go to 2 steps on this subsequence at first was because I wanted to raise the octave on every other one. So, which is kind of cool. Let's turn the pitch down to C2 for now. All right, and we'll go back in there. So I'm only 2 steps here, and there it is. But if I wanted, I could make this, up to 8 steps. I could change the speed of this. So now it's playing for 2 16th notes because we're at 8ths. It's so fun. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's just modulating the main sequence, these 4 steps right now, but particularly the pitches. 1 octave. So there's a second subsequencer. And this, what I'm going to do for just the sake of understanding, I'm I'm gonna go to an odd number again. We'll go to 3. So I have it on 2 on the subsequence on the other one. And we'll leave the rate the same. And actually, I'm gonna go ahead and do octave again, because I feel like this will really illustrate how you can get some interesting things going on. When I go to the second page, now I'm going to turn this up so it goes up 1 octave. But every so often, this subsequencer 1 on the second note is going to line up with the 1 note that I'm going to turn on in these 3 steps. So they'll add together, which means that it'll go 2 octaves up on that one, but on the other ones, it'll only be 1 octave up. So watch. Oh, maybe. Oh no, that's right. That's exactly it. So that's an octave up now. So we're expanding 3 octaves in total. And I can show that to you how if I go down to oops, sorry. I'm in the wrong place now. I'm confusing myself. If I go down to 2 steps and I do this, it's the same pitch now, because the first one is doing it on the second step and the second subsequencer is doing it on the first step. But if I do it here, it's going to add them together, so we'll be up an octave, so it'll be 2 octaves. But that's what makes it funky here. So you get like this much more complex pattern out of only 4 steps that are all C2. Now, using that same idea, if I go and I change this from octave to transpose, and let's go up to 7 steps. So transpose works in steps or semitones, I think, maybe. Steps in the scale. And it doesn't, like if you have something quantized, like I'm quantized to C minor right now, it's going to go to the nearest note. So sometimes when you turn one of these up, it's not going to do anything because the nearest note is going to be the same as the other one. So, like, see, those 2 are the same. Okay, so now, though, we have a much more complicated melodic thing happening, because we have our 7 steps here, and we have 2 steps here, flipping our octaves. Now, of course, let's go to 8, so that's 4 and 8. See? And you can hear how much more static this is. It's just immediately lengthening your sequence is what it's doing, essentially. So we've gone from a 4-step sequence to, I don't know, maybe a 28-step sequence. I'm not really sure. I think with a length of 7 and a length of 4, that's probably the case. This is how I use the subsequencers the most often, with octave and transpose. You can, of course, do rate. Let's make it really obvious. So again, this is another way to get really cool rhythms with this. But what's interesting is if you create a rhythm here, that's why I've had this at a very static selection right now, just to show what the subsequencer can do. But let's go ahead and go back to the sorry, let's go back to pitch again, transpose, and all right, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so now if we go back here and I change the pitches here, again, they're going to add together when they land in the same spot. So it adds another complexity to what we're doing. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting close to classical music now. All right. I'm just combining a bunch of the things that we did earlier. All right. So, subsequencers. Is there anything else that you want me to show you with those? Like, I didn't show you rate and direction. Direction can be a really cool one because it also can change the length of your sequence. Because if you do, 4 steps and you have it going forward on this one and then, back to on that one, I could have sworn. Oh, there it is. Okay. Never mind. All right. So as you move forward, now it's going backwards. This is alternating 2, and then random. So if you throw that on random and you throw this one on backwards, then like... So when it's going backwards, it's hitting that random. Let's keep that one on forward and we'll do backwards there. So this is, it's crazy. Like look at that jumping around now. Where's that pitch? It's happening there mostly. So now let's go ahead and put a repeat on this one. Hold on. Oh, that's weird. Now it just hangs out in there if you put the repeats. It's great mixing these things. There's a world to discover because there is just so much variation that you can get from just a few steps, if you remember, we're only using these 4 steps. That's all we've been using just now. And it's super plain, but... Um, so, yeah, I guess it is a different sequence or uh, concept than what's happening in Moscow. Um, I really like it though. I love the sub sequencers. I think they're freaking genius. Is there anything else you want to see on the sub sequencers, man?
No, I'm good. I'm definitely going to be using a lot of the subsequencer stuff with length
Yeah.
for sure.
How are you feeling on time and everything right now? Um, I can go through chants, and then if we wanted, we can flip the screen, and you can start programming something and asking like, "How do I do this? How do I do that?" Or we could save that for another stream. I don't know. Do you want to go longer? How do you feel?
Let's go through chance and we'll save the patching for next one. Give me a chance to
Okay.
digest everything that's come through.
Okay. All right. Cool. Let's do that. So I'm gonna zero some things out. What's cool with the subsequencers, instead of going through and zeroing everything out, you can just disable them, which is really a lot easier than modifying each thing individually. So let's go ahead and go back to a all the same again. Um, in fact, I want everything to be exactly the same. We'll do a slightly longer gate. Pitches are all there. Let's go ahead and turn off. Even though it's just A2s right now, it doesn't matter. Okay, so chants. Let's go. I'm going to go up to 8 steps. I've been doing everything in 4 steps. The only reason I'm not going to do 16 right now is because once I start going above 8, you're only going to see this page. Now that's how I have it set. That's actually a global setting. You could have it follow and go to the next one, but man, I find that incredibly confusing and annoying actually. So like I can't stand it. Here, watch. So now it's, there you go. And I can never get in there and change the note that I want to change at the right time because it's constantly flipping back and forth. So if I wanted to change something on the other steps, I can't do it, and it's just ridiculous. So I always turn that off. Sorry. I always turn off follow because if I have 16 steps and I want to change step 13, I can change step 13 now. And I can keep fucking with it and dialing it in until it's what I want it to be. If it's flipping back and forth between the first page of 8 steps and then steps 9 through 16, it's so hard to just grab it at the right time. So I'm going to go down to 8 steps so that we can all stay on one page. Okay, chance operations. Pitch, gate, velocity. Let's turn that there. Okay. All right. So chance has 3 pages, which are shown up here. It's kind of hard to see the differences in them. Like, oops, sorry. One for page 1, page 2 looks exactly the same. Wow, look at that. Page 3 looks exactly the same. The only thing that changes is this: chance pattern, chance type, probability. So here's the types, right? Right now, the types are set to mute, right? If I go to probability, I'm going to have a rest on step 3, right? Now, here's an interesting thing. What if I have a more complex rhythm? Right? I have a more complex rhythm. And on step 7, I want it to play a note sometimes. Now, I could turn on step 7, and I could go back to chance and change from the type page to the probability page, and I can set a percentage. So now 50% of the time it's gonna play, or it's gonna mute that note, right? So it's sometimes playing and sometimes not. But what if I want it to play exactly at a specific time, right? So let's put on 7 and 8. The next one is turn off the rest, right? So if I go here and I mute, we're back to our regular rhythm, and I go into chance and I change from the type. This is basically turn on what's been muted, right? So if I go back to gate again here, you can see that 7 and 8 are muted. And I go to chance, and here this is saying not muted, X mute, which is basically on. It's a double negative. If I change to the probability page and I put those up to 100, now they're playing. And if I set them to 50%, 50% of the time probability that they may or may not play. Now they're muted, so this is doing the opposite thing. Now, why is that interesting at all? There's a really good reason it's interesting, or at least interesting to me. If I turn them on all the way, right? The third page, I was looking at type and probability is what I've shown you. The third page, is pattern. Do you hear what that's doing? Let's turn this off. Let's make it a little more static. So on the even passes, it's playing that note. 100% of the time, it will unmute that note on an even pass. Meaning, you know what? This works better with 16 steps. I'm sorry. We just won't go into the 16 steps here. Now, I don't know why. Oh, this one I have on. I don't want this one on. Let me, I'm sorry. I was confused for a moment there. Okay, so that one's just off now. On the even passes, so if you stop this, it's going to reset when you hit run. So 1 to 16 is a full bar. That particular bar is bar 1. Bar 2 is an even bar. So when I hit play right now, you're not going to hear 7 as it goes by. But on the second bar, you are. On the third bar, you're not. On the fourth bar, you are. Now here, watch. Silent. Played. Silent. Played. Okay, so the reason I'm showing this is because you can get these really complicated patterns with only 16 steps. So some people might program, they just use up 64 steps, and they just program this exactly in that spot on the 64 steps. This is just a different approach. So on the even passes, I'm turning that on. So if I go over here and I turn on maybe that would be cooler if I did it. Yeah, that's good enough. So I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to hit chance and I'm on the type and not muted. I'm going to go back to gate, hit mute, mute all those guys. So now I don't hear them. I'm going back to chance, and actually we have 8 here too, right? So let's go to probability. So 100% of the time this is playing right now. But I'm gonna go to odds. So this step's a little bit later. It'd be more obvious if I spread them out a little bit more, but it's a little bit later. So here, what I've done, I'm gonna select, so even, odd, every 3 steps, but I'm gonna select 4 on this, and we're gonna go put this to 100%. There you go. So this plays on the 4th pass. Watch. Pass 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to play. There it is. See? It's on the 4th pass. So basically, the reason I like this, and I almost like it better than if I were to have 64 steps, is because I can get this bass rhythm that I want, right? I'm just going to go to a new preset. So I hit preset and then I push this down and I'm on AO2. I'm going to leave it at 16 steps. So I use this a lot when I'm programming percussion, but it's also really good for melodic stuff if you want, right? Like, so let's go down to a C3, and we're going to go ahead and put you there. And actually, I don't know if I'm going to do that. Let's find a rhythm that I like. Oops. I'm going to turn that octave up. Sorry.
$14.
There you go. All right. I like 14, but I don't like it all the time. So I muted it already. I go into chance, I turn off the mute, and then I change the type to probability 100%. 100% of the time, it is going to play on the even ones. What's cool though is, say I only wanted 50% probability. So every so often you can get like these ghost notes. You can write your melody and write everything. Here, watch. It's become really apparent when I do this. Wow, it just doesn't want to. There it is. Let's go back to 100%. So it can be obvious. And then I can go in, since I did 14, let's go ahead and do Okay, and the gates, mute them, and then I'm gonna go back to chance, and I'm just doing everything that I said I was doing before, except now I want this on 4. What's cool too, I can set it to 8. So this will always happen on 4 and that one will go on 8. And now let's... Alright, so man, I've spent a lot of time on chance on the first 2 operations on note on and off. But you know what? I think what it showed you the most, and you can understand now, is not the types as much as the probability and the patterns, right? Where you have even, odd, 3, 4, and 8, right? And how that can extend the length of something. But what's crazy is there's so many operations actually. So we've got mute, mute off, skip, right? Like say I wanted to skip a step, 25 on a probability of 25% of the time, like it may skip a particular step, but like that means it completely skips it. So it shortens the length of the sequence.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah. I forget what skip X is, right? I don't really know. So J with a little left arrow means jump back, right? It means jump back randomly. So here, check this out. If I set the probability to 100%, and let's go to the pitches, I did that on 3. I don't even have a gate on it. I wonder if it's going to work if I don't have a gate on it. Let's find out, because it's 100% of the time it's going to jump back randomly. There it is. So basically, I made a kind of only 3 steps random sequence because it's 100% of the time. Now this probably would be a lot more interesting if I did it like over here. We'll go for a jump. So jump back, jump forwards or backwards, and jump forwards. So I'm just going to have it jump back, and we'll set the chance here. Yeah, it's crazy. So now you're getting a little bit of... it's starting to be more generative, like you're setting parameters, but it is generative because there is a certain element of randomness to it, I'm glad you got a lot of info, Parallax memory. So let's keep going. So that's jump forward and backwards, jump forward only. This is velocity. Set the probability to 100. Oops. It's not... Oh, there's no gate on that channel. Sorry. You have to do velocity on one where there's a gate. We'll do it on 11. So let's go ahead and find the velocity again. And let's set probability 100. So that's low velocity. And then I'm going to change the type. High velocity. And I wonder if I can make it more obvious. It's not too obvious. So there's ties that you can do, like so that's 100% of the time we turn that down. So sometimes it's playing 2 notes, sometimes it's tied, and it just keeps going. Like the things that are in there, there's ratchets. So you could do 2 ratchets, 3 or 4. Which I actually usually prefer using ratchet in this way if I don't want it to happen all the time. So now we're getting into notes, which starts to become very generative. So I think this one is just like randomly any note, but you can be very specific. I want to go randomly up. So no matter what, this note will always be random up. Let's go 100%. And now down. Wait, what's going on? Oh, I'm on probability. Oh, up 1, up 2, 3, 4. So you can basically select specific notes that you want. So I'm up 5 steps. It's always that note, but what's cool now is if I change the probability, it's a specific note, which is if you only want some chance, but you want that chance, to be like you're restricting it only to those notes, which is very useful.
Chance.
Yeah, it's exactly it. So that's all the plus, and then it does all that with minus that we did all the way up to 12 steps, which is basically an octave. This is jumping back to exact steps. Jump to this step. I think. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, here. If we turn the chance up 100%, now it's always skipping between 11 and 14. So it's 12 and 13 are not hit. And then what else we got here? That's it. That's the end. It's the end of all the types. Anyway, so in the manual it shows all these types, and you can look them up and see what they all are. But it's also just fun experimenting with them. With all those chance operations too, it's not necessarily like I just want like a ratchet or something. The pitch chance operations are really powerful. And personally, I find the mute on and off very, very powerful. So it's a good way to really spice up simple and shorter sequences. So that's basically been every page along the top. And I've shown a ton of things. I mean, this is almost like a get started with vector sequencer. Sure, there's a lot more that you can do and different approaches to things. but and I haven't shown the drum sequencer. We haven't shown the chord sequencer. Um, uh, how the different parts work together, presets. I think all this stuff is stuff we're going to talk about in future ones, right?
For sure, we're going to have to, because you've just given me the opportunity to make everything I do more complicated.
Well, I mean, hey, who doesn't who doesn't want things more complicated, right? You know. Um. Yeah, dude. Uh, I'm so thirsty, and my voice is so dry right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been sneaking drinks in since I'm not the active view.
Yeah. Well, I think next time maybe we'll make you active view for a while you're programming something, and then you can ask me questions. How do I do this? How do I do that? And we'll do a bit of that together. Or if you want to get some sequences programmed, but you just uh, aren't able to get what you want, and you have them pre-programmed, then we can talk about those also.
Yeah, I figured we'd do kind of both. I've got enough voices on this thing. I can do a
Yeah,
couple of different setups, I think.
yeah. I mean, it's so cool because like, uh, all right, so let's everything's off. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna turn up. Oh, that's the wrong one. Um, okay, so so I just have these as mutes right now.
Hmm.
Um, which is super fun. Like just flipping between these.
That piston Honda, though.
Yeah, it's juicy. Anyway, and this is a single sequence that I was just messing around with, meaning presets, right? This is just one preset
Hmm.
per thing that I did just now. There's nothing to that, and it's just about muting them on and off. Um, when you have 16 steps, uh, when you have 16 steps, you have 20 presets. And
Hmm.
what I mean by that is you can change the number of steps. If you remember in this part, on the global part, there's a length here, right? If I were to change that to 32, I can have 32 step sequences or 64 step sequences if I want them. But if I do a 64 step sequence, shift clear to execute, boom, um, reformat the part, which means it's going to delete my earlier kick, which is fine with me. I'm going to say yes. We're 64 steps. If I go into my presets, uh-oh. I mean, they're
Yep.
longer parts, but I've only got fucking 6 presets now, and this is due to memory limitations within the sequencer itself, um, which is one reason why all of these crazy options for pitch, gate, velocity, all the subsequencers and chance operations and everything like that. Some people think, man, 16 steps, that's kind of lame. If I went down to 8 steps on this sequencer and only stayed in 8 steps, I feel like it would still be like pretty fucking powerful. you know. But hey, so let's. Oh, I don't. Yeah, I guess you can't go to 8 steps. It's 16 is it's 16, 32, or 64. And that's it. So shift, clear, execute. Yes. 16 steps. We're back, and now we have 20 presets again. Um, yeah, and you know you can chain presets too.
Hmm.
So if you have two 16-step presets on A1 and A2, you can chain it so that A1 plays into A2 and then goes back to A1. Um, oh, you can also name those presets. There you go. So, and here's what I was just talking about: play forever, play 1 bar, then go to AO2. So that's where some of those options are for you. And you can name these presets, but I never name the presets. I don't know. I suppose some people might want to. I just don't. The numbers for me are fine, and the amount of time it would take to name all these presets just I don't know. It's so 20 presets for 8 parts, like that's that's 1,600 presets. No, wait, no, that's right. 600 presets. No, what's wrong with me? 80 is 10. It's 160 presets. Is that right? Sorry, my math is terrible. It's ADHD is showing its true colors right now. So, yeah. So I don't know. Part one. We'll do part two
Yeah,
again, maybe next week.
yeah. Let's get it scheduled. And I learned quite a bit on this one actually. Some of the chant stuff was a little over my head, and to be honest, I don't glean much from manuals anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So
that's what's good about a video. You can go back and watch it again, the whole chance part. I'll go in and I'll time code everything so that people can jump around to those specific parts. That's gonna take me a little bit of time, but I'll do it anyway. And that way you can jump specifically to the chance operations part and start messing around with things and rewatch it. I know it may have been. We'll go through it again too together. Like,
yeah, I wouldn't worry about time coding it, dude. We're gonna go through a lot of this over again, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah, we're gonna keep going through and reinforcing all of this. So, yeah.
For
Um.
sure.
All right, dude. Well,
Appreciate it.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you hanging out, and next time we'll hopefully get to see your system, which is now in sleep mode. I can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do some live patching.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, man. Um, thanks, and thanks, folks that joined to watch. Appreciate it.
For sure.
Yeah. Take it easy next time. Hey, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I stopped the stream though.